Welcome to another Overrated Film Saturday. Apologize that this video had to be delayed. Unfortunately, I was busy over the weekend. I made note of it in my Thursday video, but in case you didn't know that I needed to delay videos, I had unfortunately delayed videos. But I should be all caught up by the end of the day. Now let's talk about one of these films that has been trying to sort of create its own kind of spin-off from what was kind of originally sort of made. And why I don't think it really succeeds ultimately all too well. And that's in the realms of animation again, and I'm going to be discussing the film Minions. Okay, as you probably or probably not known, at least within my country, at least within the United States, there's been a lot of hype with these Minions. They are everywhere you go. They are constantly on people's Facebook. There's a lot of merchandise that has been marketed that has been trying to push the Minions as this kind of, I don't know, it's almost trying to make them like they're Mickey Mouse or something. And I unfortunately think that a lot of this hype is a little bit too overboard for my taste, and it's also something that I don't think really ultimately works because I don't think the Minions themselves are really all that compelling characters. So, that being hence the whole idea sort of behind the film that sort of came out was to really pop up the merchandising of it. And the film, I think, unfortunately suffers from a lot. I think this primarily has to do with the fact of, again, just focusing on the Minions, hence the title Minions, and also by the fact that it kind of tries to follow the sort of similar formula that we've seen time and time again from these movies. Now, in case you don't know who the Minions are, they're technically side characters of the Despicable Me movies. And now, after doing Despicable Me 2, they decided to do sort of this spin-off-y thing where the Minions sort of take center stage. And I think that's a horrible idea because I think Minions are good as side characters. They're not designed to, I think, be main characters, only because Minions don't talk. They chit-chatter in these kind of like, and I almost want to say the voices too are kind of annoying. They kind of bother me a little bit. They're like, ha 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 ha. They're not really pleasant voices to hear. And although they give them big eyes and they try to make them look cute for kids, I know, they have a certain adorableness to them. I understand. But on the other hand, I think, their oversaturation and presence, at least within the market, is a little bit too overboard. And I don't think they deserved or really needed a film primarily focusing on them. So and the thing too is since the Minions are really comic relief, they're not necessarily the emotional center of the films, at least the ones that were, at least the original films they had, Despicable Me and Despicable Me 2. So when you're trying to make them the sort of center of attention and kind of give us some kind of emotional feel for these characters, it's kind of hard to do that considering the fact that a lot of the time they're really utilized for comic relief. They're kind of just designed to, again, be sort of more of the side characters, the ones that kind of give off that positive energy when something kind of deep or something sort of more dramatic happens. So, and that's really their purpose and how they're supposed to be utilized. And this is really why I don't understand why they decided to make a movie centered purely on them. And I think a lot of it was intended for marketing purposes because a lot of kids, oh, look at the Minions, they're so cute. We're not going to put any effort into them and really give them any personality because they really, unfortunately, don't really have a whole lot within this movie. But the first thing that is really the problem with the entire Minions film is that it repeats the main plots that were sort of original to the Despicable Me sort of series, where you've got this super evil villain, except in this case it's a woman, and then you've got the minions who sort of help her, you guessed it, take over the world, and this is it's so annoying to see this plot recycled. Like, I mean, come on, we've seen the professor, already with the Despicable Me movies. Why do we need another one? And rehash the same plot. Why don't the minions just go on some kind of adventure or something, and they maybe get lost, or they encounter maybe various obstacles, and then they sort of come back to where they were supposed to be, maybe to where uh, the original characters really were of the Despicable Me series or something like that. I don't understand why they don't do that. Something kind of out of the box. Like, this is just so going back to just rehash territory that it really annoys me. Like, it just really, ooh, it's just frustrating. um, and also the thing too is not only do you get a repetition of plot, you get sort of, again, the repetition of comedy. There's a lot of comedic things that happen within the Minions movies, that they try to show butts because they think butts are funny, and it's just we we've seen this like already, we don't need any more butts, and we don't need any more of these kind of like, haha, look at us being funny, ha, we're minions, jokes. I mean, and this is the problem, I think, of centering a movie around these minions, is that they're not designed to be main characters. They're just not meant for that. They're they're supposed to be minions. In other words, they assist the bad guy. They don't get their own center of attention movie because, for one thing, again, they don't talk, and they speak in these very voices, and there's no way to really distinguish a lot of the minions, unfortunately. Like, I couldn't tell you which one apart from who. It's almost like they're kind of the same. Maybe they're giving a little bit of traits here and there, but a lot of what they are designed to be is sort of the same. Yeah, maybe they'll give a certain one a different design or whatnot. Maybe one's kind of taller than the other, and it. But really, there's nothing iconic or unique about these minions. Like, they don't have the same amount of charm, or the amount of you know engagement level or likability, I think, than a lot of other animated characters, and I really don't understand why they needed to have a movie dedicated to them. I really don't get it. Like, they should have moved on, move on. Stop trying to redo everything again and again and again and again. And that's the thing too, is sometimes I think it's really hard, and I think it's kind of difficult for maybe even animators to a certain extent to let certain animated characters go. Like, just not just realizing, okay, this is all of what these characters can really potentially do. I'm gonna try to go off and do something else. I'm not gonna push. I'm going to keep pushing the boundaries and thinking outside the box and do something else. And it seems like here this is probably what this is something that I think the animators had a difficult time letting go of, and they sort of wanted to create this movie to just kind of reinforcing the brand, when really the brand had its time and it doesn't need to be. It didn't know when to let it go. That's just the best way I can describe it. I mean, it just didn't know when to stop. And unfortunately here, I think these in particular minions suffer only because there's nothing that compelling or that interesting about them. There's nothing that really screams out that they're so innovative or interesting. They're just kind of like these little cute little evil minions that talk funny and don't really say words, and supposedly you're supposed to be comic relief. But when that's all your characters got, I mean, there's not a huge amount that you can do with them, and that's really what this film, I think, suffers from too, as well. I mean, and it just has to do with, again, reinforcing something that I don't think needs further reinforcement or trying to put something out there that's been put out there already, and actually probably even really necessary. And even on the first try, it's like it's good, just one try. You don't need to do it anymore. You don't need to redo everything again and again and again. Um, and so I think that's really what ultimately this film suffers from, is the fact that it is repeating something that has already been seen extensively, and by the fact that these minion characters are actually, to me personally, not all that compelling or interesting, or that, I mean, they're cute to a certain extent. I mean, I'll give them that, but I mean, beyond that, there's nothing else really to them. Nothing says to me, oh, this character kind of stands out. It's just they're kind of all phoned in, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, again, they can't, um, talk like normal people can, and also because a lot of their expressions are the same, all the way they kind of interact and bounce off of each other. They're just kind of poking fun at one another, and they just kind of blend in. There's not a huge amount of way in which these characters kind of stand out, and yeah, I just think it suffers from just trying to overextend something that's already said it's welcome. But that's just my honest opinion. I mean, I don't think that this, I mean, it's not necessarily bad for children. I mean, I don't think this is a horrible film or a horrible series of films. I actually did enjoy extensively the first Despicable Me film, but I think that was enough. I mean, I don't think they needed to make this a brand and try to, keep going with more and more. Because that's why I think that's really what ends up happening when you overstay the welcome, and you don't try to go and do something different, or try to introduce new characters or something of that nature. You just kind of repeat, rinse, recycle, repeat. And here, this is, I think, was clearly the case, unfortunately. But I mean, I think that's really ultimately all I can say. I mean, they were just kind of there, I think, just too much. It's not that I don't necessarily think that they don't have an appeal. I mean, I think they can be cute to a certain extent. I think they can be funny. I just don't think that there needs to be an entire film dedicated to them, especially when they were already given their due already within the previous two films, Despicable Me and then Despicable Me 2. Um, so, yeah, I think though that's really ultimately all I can say. If there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you all